Hey, my name is Carl Bay, and this is my individual video project for Cyber Operations CYPR 442-50. I'm going to be showing you how to set up a Splunk server and how to use it to filter for malicious traffic. So what is Splunk? Splunk is one of the most popular SIEM solutions on the market. Thousands of companies around the world use it. It ingests logs. They're typically sent from remote machines. The logs are normalized and indexed for easy searching. Splunk can alert you to malicious activity on your network or out of the ordinary events. There are other uses for Splunk, such as gathering metrics about your network. What is Syslog? It is the system logging protocol, and it's used to send logs from a remote machine to a central logging server. It's also a format, the syslog format, and we're going to use syslog to aid us in sending logs over to the Splunk server to be ingested. So what am I going to demonstrate in this project? We're going to first set up a Splunk server on Oracle Linux 9. I'm going to then show you how to forward logs over to the remote server using Rsyslog. Then I'll generate some red team traffic against the target, and then I'll show you how to filter through the logs for signs of malicious behavior. And these are the virtual machines that I will be using in this project. All right, the first thing I'm going to demonstrate is how to actually get Splunk installed on your computer. So you will have to go to splunk.com and create a Splunk account. And once you've done that, you can log in and we can click Free Splunk. So there's a few different Splunk services. This one's for cloud. If we go here, free trials and downloads page. There's also enterprise, which is one that we're going to use. And there's universal forwarders. So we'll go to Splunk Enterprise and say, get my free trial. And here's the most recent version. I am going to grab a little bit older version. So previous releases. I'm going to grab the version that was used for the Collegiate Cyber Defense competition this year, which is 9.1.1, and we are going to grab the RPM one. So on Oracle Linux 9. Once the download starts, we're going to cancel it real quick. We're going to say download via command line. We'll copy this. Come over here. We'll do a terminal. Change into the ops directory. That's where we're going to put our Splunk installation. And we're going to run that command that we copied. Right now, it's going to take maybe a minute or two to download. All right, so Splunk is downloaded. So we can install it by running this command. All right, so Splunk is successfully installed. So now we need to basically accept the license agreement and run it. This command will actually start Splunk. We do --accept license. We won't have to scroll through a million pages of license agreements. All right, so now it'll ask to enter the user that's going to be associated with your Splunk account. Call it Splunk admin. I'll ask for a password. All right, so in just a second, we will have Splunk up and running. Right, so the Splunk web UI can now be accessed from opening this link. Right, so here is Splunk, the web UI, so we can log in with the credentials that we just made. Not sure if I typed that right. All right, so now this is Splunk. We are in and ready to get things set up. All right, so we are going to use Syslog to get logs sent over from one machine over to our Splunk server, which will also be our Syslog server. And we are going to specifically use the service Rsyslog, which stands for Rocket Fast System for Log Processing. So right now we're on what will be the Syslog server, and we need to edit the configuration file. Be rsyslog.conf in the etc directory. All right, so to get this working, we need to uncomment out a few lines. So this will allow for syslog traffic to be sent over to this machine on port UDP 1515. We're going to do a TCP port as well. Will be 1516. All right, so that's all we need to do for the server, our syslog configuration file. So we'll save that, and then we will restart the rsyslog process or service. Okay, so we're good there. All right, so now we're on our vulnerable machine, and this is going to be our syslog client. So we're going to edit the etc's rsyslog.conf file. We're going to go all the way to the bottom. We're going to put 2 lines down here. First one will allow UDP traffic over port 1515 to be sent to the syslog server. And then the second line, we'll put another hat here. This one's going to send syslog traffic over port 1516 over TCP. We're going to save that. Restart our syslog. All right, so now this should be configured to send syslog traffic over to the syslog server. Right, so now we have our syslog traffic being sent over from our vulnerable machine to our syslog server, which is also our Splunk server. One thing I forgot to mention, which is important, is if you're trying to set this up yourself, you have to make sure that your VMs are in bridged mode and not NAT, because otherwise they won't be able to communicate with each other. All right, so we will get the syslog traffic that has been sent over from our vulnerable machine to our Splunk server. We can ingest it into Splunk by creating data inputs. So we're going to do data input. So we are going to set up a TCP listen for data input. All right, so new local TCP. So we had that on 1516. We'll put next. Input settings. We'll find syslog. app context, we can do search and reporting. Method, you can do IP or DNS, depending on if you want host name or IP addresses. Index, we can create a new index if we want. Let's just call the index project. We don't really need to do too much else. Save. And review. Looks good. Submit. All right, so we got that input set up. Now let's set up our UDP data input. It'll be the same exact process as the TCP. All right, new local UDP. This one up 1515 because that's where we get that one. Syslog again. 14. We can do this one over IP. The other one was DNS. And we could do project as the index again. Okay, so then we will review, submit. All right, so we have our data input set up. So now the syslog traffic that was sent over from our vulnerable machine to our syslog server will now be able to be ingested up into Splunk. All right, so now we have logs being sent over from our vulnerable machine and they are being ingested by Splunk. So to look at these logs, we can go to the search and reporting app. Here is the Splunk search head. This is where we'll type our Splunk queries in. They're called, it uses a language called Splunk Search Processing Language, SPL. So first, we made an index called project. So let's search for all logs that are in our index project. We have 317 logs found. Let's see, so host, all of our logs are being sent over by 10.0.0.59, and that should be the IP of our vulnerable machine. So let's check that quick. And yep, so that is correct. That is the IP of our vulnerable machine. So right now we have 317 logs to look through. So we can add different search filters, like search type equals syslog, and then we can do a search term. Maybe we'll try fail. So this should return anything from the index project with a source type of syslog that has the word fail in the log. And it didn't return anything. And I think that's because we should put a wildcard after fail. So this will return anything that has fail with any amount of characters of any type after. All right, so now we have 90 events for fail. We can also do things like SSH and fail. That'll return anything that has both SSH and fail. All right, I'm gonna quickly go over reports and alerts. So we have a Splunk query, so index equals any, source type equals syslog, and we need to find stuff that has auth and fail in it. We can filter by time. This is going to be something you'll want to do almost all the time. We can keep it at last 24 hours, hit search. All right, now so we've returned some results, but we can also save this as a report, an alert, or a dashboard. So let's save it as a report. We're going to title it authentication. Save that. This will make it so we can easily redo this search. So if we come into reports, you can find failed authentication, hit open and search, and it'll quickly perform our search for us. All right, and the other thing you can do is you can set an alert. You could save this query as an alert so that anytime certain conditions are triggered, like if Splunk finds a log that has both fail and auth in it, it'll trigger an alert and it'll let us know. And unfortunately, the free version of Splunk doesn't really have this feature, but if you have a paid license, then it should be extremely useful. All right, so now it's time to use my ParrotOS attack box, and we're going to generate some red team traffic against our target, which is the CentOS 7 machine. So I'm going to run a super aggressive Nmap scan against the target. And it's worth noting, earlier I was testing this out and I was able to get some stealthier scans and it wasn't really detected by the target. So I just bumped up the aggressiveness of this scan and I'm sure that it'll get picked up. All right, so our scan finished against the target. Let's check out Splunk and see what got pulled up. All right, so we're just going to search for all logs from the project, but we're going to search for the last 15 minutes. All right, so we're seeing connection closed by the attacker. So the reason that the connection was closed is because we're doing a full connect scan and it will make the full, complete the three-way handshake before closing the connection. We're going to see a bunch of weird stuff like unable to negotiate with the attacker. So these are all signs that someone is pretty aggressively trying to scan your network. All right, so during our Nmap scan of the target, we saw that port 22 SSH was actually open. So we can try to fuzz the credentials using Hydra. For the sake of time, I put together two small word lists, one for users and one for passwords. And so we can use Hydra. If you use -L, you can put a word list in for users to try. -P, you can put in a word list for passwords to try. Then you put in the target IP and the service to fuzz. So let's run this. So now it's going to try combinations of all of these usernames and passwords. And we successfully found the credentials. They were using very default credentials here. Login is admin and the password is password. So now we can actually go SSH admin at login to the target. And his password is password. Right, so we were able to SSH into the target. All right, so now we're back in Splunk and let's see what kind of logs we can look at now. We'll do last 15 minutes again. And we have a lot of events. So yeah, we have a lot of failed SSH logins, which is to be expected. Yeah, anytime you see anything with like SSH, authentication, flood, ping, login, depending on services, maybe like FTP, things like that, you'll know something is wrong. Yeah, a lot of failed attempts on SSH right here. So let's see if we can actually find the successful login. Right, if we come back down here, we can actually tell that the attacker was able to successfully log in over SSH to the target using the credentials that we fuzzed using Hydra. So yeah, this has been a demonstration of how powerful Splunk can be for finding malicious activity on your network. So yeah, it's a really awesome tool, and I hope that you learned something and hope you found this informative. Thank you.